Hello and welcome back to my channel and welcome to the inaugural episode of Real Crime. R-E-E-L, Crime. The show where I do my makeup and tell you a plot of a horror movie, but like as if it was a true crime story, because a lot of us love to consume true crime content, but I understand that there are certain ethical dilemmas with that. So I kind of thought if I presented a horror movie like it's true crime, then that kind of gets rid of that problem, right? So here we are, Real Crime, R-E-E-L. Get it? So for this first episode, I'm going to take you back to the good old days in the early 90s to a little town in California called Woodsboro. And we're going to talk about the Woodsboro Massacre. Because while this story isn't real, it feels like it could be, doesn't it? So although the bulk of this story takes place in the early 90s, we actually have to go all the way back to 1951, where maybe the most important person in our story begins. Her name was Maureen Roberts. She was the eldest daughter of the Roberts family, and she had a younger sister named Kate, who was about 5 years younger than her. She was born and raised in Woodsboro, California, and when she was about 18 years old, you know, as many young people do, and especially if you're already in California, she decided she wanted to be an actress. So she got out of Woodsboro and she went to Hollywood with them stars in her eyes, you see. Determined to make it as an actress in Hollywood, Maureen decided to use the stage name Rena Reynolds, and she met this producer named John Milton. And John Milton was like, "You're gonna be a star, honey." Spoiler alert, John Milton was not a good man. Basically, what John Milton did was he introduced her to a whole bunch of dudes, and was like, "These dudes will help you in your career if you do things with them." You know what I mean? Like many young girls her age, especially in the 70s, Maureen did these things, hoping that they would help her career, and they did not help her career. And eventually, a bunch of these men got together, and they, like, all attacked her at once, if you know what I mean when I say attacked. As a result of this attack, she actually fell pregnant at just, like, 19 years old or something, and she gave birth to her first son in 1970, who she then put up for adoption almost immediately. I just remembered I was supposed to be doing my makeup. So she shot a couple of, like, little horror movies while she was in Hollywood, but she didn't end up making it big, unfortunately, and she ended up going back to her hometown of Woodsboro. And there she met a man named Neil Prescott, and they got married, and eventually she gave birth to her first and only daughter, Sidney. Now, as a result of the trauma that she endured from her attack, and the trauma was never really sort of dealt with, right? Maureen, it's hard because, like, I don't want to judge Maureen for the choices she made in life, even if they're a little questionable. Some would call Maureen a loving wife and mother. Others, after her death in the town of Woodsboro, would call her a slut. Now, I don't agree with that term, and I don't agree with calling Maureen that, but what is true is that she did have a wandering eye and had many extramarital affairs. Well, I say many. There's like 2 that I can think of off the top of my head, but I think there were more than that. And unfortunately, in 1995, young Sidney, who was in high school, I don't know what she was doing. Was she coming home from school? Was she coming home from a friend's house? What exactly was she doing? I'm not sure. But she was coming home and she saw a man exit her house wearing her mother's jacket. A while later, Sidney enters her house and finds her mother attacked. I can't use the R word on YouTube, but you know what I mean. And murdered right there in the living room in the middle of her house. As if that's not heartbreaking and traumatic enough, the trial happens next, right? Because that man that she saw leaving her house is obviously suspect number 1. His name is Cotton Weary. What a horrific name, I know. But Cotton is found and apprehended and is eventually convicted of Maureen's death, based largely on the fact that Sidney saw him leave her house. Now, pretty much everyone in Woodsboro, like I said, knew at this point, I don't know if it was because of the trial or whatever, but they knew that Sidney's mom had been stepping out on her husband and, you know, her family. But most people agreed that Cotton had been the one that did her in. there was one reporter. Her name is Gail Weathers. And to me, she's an icon. But she actually doesn't play a huge role in the story, if we're being honest. She thought from day one that Cotton was not guilty. And eventually, Sidney starts to have her doubts as well. So I don't know what kind of judicial system they have there in Woodsboro, but it went by pretty fast because within a year, they found Cotton. They put him on trial. He was found guilty, and he's on death row. That doesn't happen that fast anywhere else, but, go on with your bad self. So now we fast forward to 363 days after the murder of Maureen Prescott. A girl named Casey Becker is chilling in her big, expensive California family home, okay? I'm talking like everything is white. It's got these big freaking windows, the kind of windows that you're like, this girl has money. And her family has money. And I bet you those windows seemed like a really good idea at first. They're probably so beautiful. They let in the light. You can, see everything. It's probably stunning when it's, a nice sunny day. But in the middle of the night, they're probably creepy. And I would be so creeped out by giant windows like that. I, as a kid, slept on the second floor of the house. What color did I even just use? And I used to imagine that there were, people coming to steal me out of my second-story window. So I can only imagine what your whole freaking house of windows would be like. That's irrelevant. What's relevant is that Casey, she's home alone. She's making some popcorn. She's chilling. She's about to watch a movie. She gets a phone call. At first she thinks it's just a wrong number, so she hangs up. And then the guy starts asking her questions. Like, what you doing? What's up? She thinks the guy's voice is kind of cute. So at first she's a little bit flirty. He's asking her, what's your favorite scary movie? Blah, blah, blah. What you doing? Eventually, he starts getting a little creepy, and he asks her name, and she's like, why do you want to know? And he says, because I want to know who I'm looking at. And honestly, I don't blame her for being creeped out. I think any of us would be creeped out by that. She starts telling him that she had previously told him that she didn't have a boyfriend because she was being flirty and cute, and then now she's like, I have a boyfriend, he's on the football team, he's gonna come kick your ass, and he's like, just kidding. Patio lights turn on, boyfriend is duct taped to a chair, gets murdered, okay? It's a whole big thing. Casey is now running around the house, the killer's in the house, he's busting through, it's a big chase scene, and by the time Casey's parents come home, they unfortunately find her body in the backyard, and it's quite a grisly scene at that moment, to be honest with you. I guess that would have been 362 days, because the next day at school is when Sidney finds out about the murder of Casey, and she is freaked out. Now, to make matters worse, later that day, she's home alone. Her dad, he's a wheeling and dealing business guy, okay, and he's constantly gone for business. Maybe this contributed to, Maureen's wandering eye. Maybe she was looking for companionship. Maybe she just wanted someone who would be around. I don't know, and unfortunately she's not here for me to ask her, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. So he's gone, and he's leaving Sidney, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I do find it suspicious that he leaves on the anniversary of the mom's death. You would think that if there was a date that he would cancel the business meetings and stick around for his high school age daughter, that would be the day, but I digress. He leaves. Peace out, Dad. Bye. And now Sidney is left alone, so her friend Tatum is supposed to come over to, keep her company because she's, freaked out. And Tatum is late coming over because Tatum doesn't always seem like a great friend. And Sidney herself gets one of those creepy phone calls, and the killer is actually in the house with her. He, pops up out of nowhere behind her. He's got his knife. He's scaring her. She's freaked out. Now, she runs upstairs to her bedroom to hide. I don't understand why they always run upstairs. That seems counterintuitive to me, but she runs upstairs. And when she runs upstairs, her boyfriend, Billy, comes through the window and says he heard screaming. Suspicious timing? Yes. I understand he's coming through the window. It's supposed to be, romantic, whatever. He comes through the window. She's freaking out. She thinks nothing of it until a cell phone falls out of his pocket. Now, you must remember, this is 1996, okay? So, cell phones were not what they are now, okay? She immediately finds it terrifying that he has a cell phone, okay? Because she's like, are you the one that called me? And he's like, no, I didn't. She's like, I think you're the one that called me because no one else on Earth has a cell phone, even in 1996. And he's like, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. And she's like, I think it was you, I think it was you. Police come, they apprehend Billy because he had a cell phone. That's the tea. And Sidney for the next 24 hours, which is the rest of the story. She doesn't ever really shake the feeling that it was Billy all along. Later that night, Sidney goes to stay at her friend Tatum's house because she's freaked out and whatnot, and she gets a call there from the scary killer. And that freaks her out even further, just kind of further going to prove that things aren't really going very well for Sidney. So the next day, which is now actually the anniversary of Maureen's death, Sidney is going back to school. She's freaked out, and the police release Billy because realistically they have nothing to prove that he was or was not the caller, right? 96, cell phone records weren't instantaneous, and I actually don't know that they're instantaneous now, but they certainly weren't then. And this is sort of beside the point, but even when the cell phone records do come back, they don't say it was Billy. So Billy's best friend, Stu, who is Tatum's boyfriend, the four of them are like a little double date, four group situation. He's also got one of them rich people houses. His is a little different. It's a little more of like a farmhouse vibe. It's a little less of like a clean, rich, white California vibe, like a Casey's house, but it's a rich house, nonetheless. And Stu decides he's going to throw a big party that night. I did, specifically pick a foundation that was too pale for me, because I thought it kind of went with the story we're telling. But I underestimated how pale this foundation is on me. Like, I look ghostly. I had to do my eyeliner off camera. I haven't done it in a while at this point because I don't really wear a full face of makeup every day anymore, and it was stressing me out. So, while all this is going on, while she's grappling with the grief of her mother's death, and then also with the sort of rumors going around town of her mom being promiscuous, Sidney, how do I say this? Her boyfriend wants to do the do, and she is holding out on him. And from the outside, he's being very respectful and great. And what we find out is that one of the main reasons Sidney will not do the do with him, which, she doesn't even need reasons. She could just not want to do that at that point. She's in high school, but whatever. Is a sort of deep-seated fear that she's gonna become like her mother. Now, I know, I hate that too, don't get me wrong, but she doesn't know what we know. She doesn't know about her mom's trauma. She doesn't know about the backstory. She just knows that her mom cheated on her dad, and as far as Sidney knows, it's her mother's lover who killed her, right? So, they all go to Stu's house for this big party he's throwing. No parents, not one parent. One parent is seen throughout this whole situation, I'm telling you. So, while they're at this party, Sidney, who is still a little apprehensive about Billy, okay, we're being honest, she hasn't fully decided yet if she trusts him or not, decides to do the do with him. This is part of the story that has always confused me. Why does she do that when she's not certain about if he's the one that called her and freaked her out or not? I think that's as far as she's thinking about it right now, but I don't know. I don't know why she does that, but she does that. And right after the deed has been done, the killer appears and stabs her boyfriend Billy. It's a whole thing. Sidney's freaking out. At that point, there's just blood everywhere. She's running around. She's freaking out, and she just sees bodies everywhere. Her friends, the news crew guy. Sidney is running around trying to find help, and she can't find it. And shit's happening all over the place, okay? Okay, I'm going to attempt to put on lashes. I think the last time I put on lashes was March, so pray for me. A tip for me, you know how shoes, I wouldn't know this from personal experience, but you know how you have to break in a pair of shoes? I believe you gotta break in a pair of lashes too. Lashes are never easy to wear or put on the very first time they're used. They have to be put on once or twice beforehand. Right up with the glue. There it is. So if you have a big event or something fun you're doing and you want to wear lashes for it, wear them to something else first. So at this point, Sidney's freaking out, right? Like, obviously, she's seen all this murder. She's seen the killer. She's seen her boyfriend get stabbed. She's running around the house. She's freaking out. She's running around outside the house. She gets chased out the window at one point, and she ends up back in the house, and she sees her boyfriend come out of the room and, like, sort of stumble down the stairs, and then stand up dramatically. Dun, dun, dun. And it turns out he's the killer. It's always the boyfriend, isn't it? But wait, there's more. The twist in this is that there's actually 2 killers, and the other killer is the host himself, Mr. Stumacher. So here's the tea. Here's the backstory that Sidney was missing, right? You see, Billy's father was one of Maureen's lovers. And when Billy's mom found out, she left him and basically just, like, up in peace out of town, okay? She abandoned her family, basically. And instead of blaming his dad for cheating, nay, of course not, he blames Maureen, and somehow, by extension, Sidney, for the mom leaving. Make it make sense. Boys will do anything to avoid accountability, I swear. So at this point, Stu and Billy reveal to Sidney that they killed her mom, and that they are responsible together for all of these recent murders. And surprise, they actually have Sidney's dad. Like, I don't know how they kidnapped him. I don't know how they got this grown-ass man, but they got him, and they have him tied up and beat up in the closet. And their plan the whole time, essentially, was to frame him for all of these killings. So those calls that had all been made, they had cloned the dad's cell phone, so that when eventually the records are checked, it'll look like they all came from the dad's phone. And their plan was to, like, kill everybody, basically, and then they stab each other, Billy and Stu, so that when the police arrive, they will look like they fought back, and they're, like, the only 2 survivors, and that's their plan. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, they're teenage boys, and that means they didn't really think it through, and they get kind of distracted, and in the moment they get distracted, Sidney is able to get away. She calls police. She manages to hide in a closet and kill Billy with a very sharp umbrella. I don't know what kind of umbrella Stu has in his house that you can stab straight through someone's chest with, but go off, I guess. And then eventually her and Stu sort of tussle, and she throws a TV at his head, and he dies from that, allegedly. Allegedly dies. For the longest time, I was like, why did they... I understand why they kill Maureen. Like, I don't understand, but, like, I understand. Like, I understand that that was the motive. Revenge. But, like, why Casey and Steve? Like, what was the tea there? But I guess Stu had dated Casey, and she broke up with Stu to be with Steve. So it was, like, also a revenge thing there. Like, instead of just, I don't know, moving on. He did move on. He was with Tatum, so I don't understand. Well, I do understand. They're teenage boys, and teenage boys are gonna do what teenage boys are gonna do, you know? I feel like I spent most of this video looking for products I brought over here, so, like, maybe I should better organize this next time. Okay, now just let me put my lip product on, and then we'll finish this video. Now, one would think that the deaths of Billy and Stu, you know, would be the end of the terrible goings-on in Woodsboro, California, but nay. Their deaths were just the beginning, as they acted as a catalyst, if you will, for a number of massacres in Woodsboro over the next 30 years. And if I was Sidney Prescott, I would probably be in a rubber room, because she has had to deal with this her whole life, right? Because the rest of them will kind of center around her eventually. The way the story is framed, it makes her seem stronger, and it makes her seem very tough, but I know that if that were me, I would definitely not be okay. It's like, girl, you've been through it. You've been through enough. Leave her alone. What is the moral of the story in the end? Don't cheat on your spouse. Yes, but The other moral of the story is more teenage boys need therapy. Especially the rich ones, maybe. Although I guess there's really nothing to suggest that Billy is rich. It just Woodsboro seems like a very lots of money kind of area. So that is the case of what is known as the Ghostface killings. What do you think of my makeup? I haven't done a full face of makeup in a very long time at this point, like many months. I actually forgot what I looked like with a full face of makeup on. This is kind of weird to me. What do we think of it? What do we think of the combo? I thought Pretty Grunge, the HUDA palette, kind of went with the whole sort of mid-90s thing, right? Please give this video a like. Please subscribe to my channel if you have not subscribed already, and make sure you leave in the comment section below what real crime video you'd like to see next. I have a couple planned, but I'm always willing to add more if this is the sort of content you like to see. I love you so much. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!